So that was on a Monday. I took my test on Friday. Right? I went home, booked it, Pearson VUE, took a test on Friday. This was February of 2020.
Yeah.
This is like the Wolf of Wall Street. We always say it's like, show me that.
Show me the bank account.
Paycheck and I'll quit my job and work for you.
Yes, yes. I never really thought of it that way, but 100%.
It's true.
Yeah, hangs up the phone. I got licensed. So
Jonah Hill and Leonardo DiCaprio were so good in that movie.
So good. Yeah. Maybe they'll make a movie about. No, I'm just kidding.
Agent Boost.
All right, guys. Another episode of the Agent Boost podcast coming your way. We've got the man, the myth, the legend. Really excited for our guest today, Evan MacGuffie with Medizues. I was today years old when I learned that it's actually Medizues.
Technically, yeah.
That's some clever branding.
Yeah.
On misspelling Zeus. That's a bold strategy there, as they'd say. Evan, why don't you kind of give us a quick little intro, who you are and what you do.
So I'm the founder of a tech company, and I can't spell for shit. We're allowed to swear on here?
Yeah, you can swear. Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
We'll just have to put an NSFW warning on this
yeah.
one. No, just kidding.
Yeah, right on. I'm an agent first to build a tech company. We launched October 1st. We help Medicare agents retain their clients, and we do that by showing in real time when your client signs up for new MAPD or PDP, which is super beneficial because normally you don't find out until it's too late. At that point in time, it's not compliant to reach out to that beneficiary. And even if you could, it'd be hard to get the sale back. Just positioning's wrong.
Yeah, and I would be honest too. Like we're really glad you made the trip out here. Obviously, to be a guest, we've been big fans of your product, and I think a lot of people still in the industry. I think it's more like we talk about your addressable market and really what that could grow into. And obviously, we just think that the biggest problem is lack of awareness at the moment. And obviously, we think you're poised to do very well. So we're big fans of the product. Why we think that we want to promote that awareness. And we really think that there's such a need for the product in the marketplace. That's why you're here.
Yeah, let me kind of add in on that, and kind of give you your flowers. But we pay attention to a lot of stuff going on in the industry, and there's not a lot of innovation, in my opinion, or a lot of people willing to take a risk and put themselves out there. And so we became aware of you and, seeing a very big need and a gap in the market, and you've been able to build it. And so just kind of really cool, been impressed with you and your journey and the willingness to kind of step in and create a tech product in an industry that's, pretty rigid and pretty resistant normally to the new way of doing things. So props to you.
Thank you.
I would agree. And to add to that, I think that we have a weird dynamic. We talk about it at lunch today, but just incentives and organizations. And there's a lot of disruption right now in our industry too. And I think that from a carrier and industry and even from an investor perspective, there's a lot of people who are kind of on the sidelines right now who are just trying to see how things play out over the next year or two. And so I think that has halted and slowed down a lot of the progress and the growth and the tech and the solutions within the space. So, and I think that that's part of the other reason that we're having this discussion, because I think our organization just feels like our best days are still ahead, and we have our foot on the gas, and we feel the same way about your product and Medizues as well.
Yeah, and we'll have you go into your history here. To be clear, we use Medizues at Agent Boost, and we found it tremendously effective for retaining our clients and finding clients who are moving away. And so you can kind of get into that, but just to be clear, we're on board. We're a user as well, and that's why we wanted to have you out. So why don't you kind of give us your origin story, so to say?
Yeah, I mean, I will totally give you the full origin story, but let me just say this. It's times like this that we remember that CMS, like Medicare was created, and CMS exists for the benefit of beneficiaries, right? For seniors. And it just so happens that as an agent, you can make a ton of money.
Yep.
Right. But CMS, their number one priority is the Medicare system and seniors getting the proper health care that they deserve. They've been paying into Social Security for 40 years. Mm-hmm. It makes sense. So CMS only has two tools in their toolkit to reduce increase, but to reduce complaints, right? And complaint is the number one KPI that they really care about as far as PR goes.
Yep.
So what are those two tools? Adding a law or removing a law, right? They can't create a technology that's going to benefit the system as a whole. that's I can't really say anything else than that.
Yeah.
So they are only limited. They're limited by their two tools. So it's up to us as the private market to come up and innovate. And ultimately, when we help ourselves, we help seniors and we help the carriers, right? When we launched, like the first time that I built Medizues with a prototype, I built it because I had clients falling off the books, and it's messing up my mailbox money.
Yeah.
Right? I can't. I'm starting like Happy Gilmore today.
It's all
No,
good.
you're good. Man. You're good. Absolutely.
So, like, it was a retention tool. Then we launch and we realize, oh shit, this saves complaints, right? This lowers complaints. All of a sudden, a couple of carrier partners reach out and they're like, hey, we don't have to investigate as many complaints anymore. We're the ones that are responsible for doing all the investigations. CMS makes the rules, but the carriers have to enforce them.
Correct.
Right? And so when you have to listen, each complaint requires a proper investigation, and now you have to listen to the call recording. It's like, oh shit, your time that you spent on each investigation just went from, let's just say, like 45 minutes or an hour, because you have to get the agent statement, you have to get the beneficiary statement. Now all of a sudden some poor son of a bitch in Humanities has to listen to your phone call that lasted 45 minutes. So the time to investigate your complaint probably doubled or tripled, and that's time is money.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. One of the things that we've noticed, a common thing that we hear from our retention team and our agents that use it as they go run the report and see, who's falling off their books on a month-to-month basis, we get reported back that half of those consumers don't even know that they're being changed.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot of course, we know buyers are liars. Consumers a lot of times are going to lie, especially when the agent's like, hey, are you moving away from me? But I do know that there's a lot of fraud or a lot of confusion, and a lot of times there's that secondhand or the buyer's remorse where maybe somebody decided to change and then they're like, I don't know if I actually want to. So that's one thing that we've noticed, like to your point, is there's a lot of people that decide to move and then maybe didn't know that someone's moving their plan or quite understand what they were doing.
Yeah, but how often do agents talk to, let's just talk about DSNP members even in particular. They're the most kind of vulnerable, most sometimes ignorant, and I use the word ignorant, like not informed, right? They just don't know. And frequently they fall prey to a lot of predatory practices out there, right? Where whether it's a home health company and a product they're selling or the broker community, and frequently we hear agents selling DSNPs and saying, oh yeah, I'm just updating your benefits. I'm just giving you an upgrade. Yeah. I'm just giving you dental benefits, or I'm doing, nothing's going to change. And so there is a segment of the broker community out there too, and whether it be call center based or field, that is not very transparent about what they're actually doing with their benefits. So I do think there's a big element of that, a certain percentage. If I'm a broker and I have a big book of business and I'm seeing policies leaving my book of business, 50% of those people maybe are not intending to, and it is.
Or didn't quite understand.
Correct. Yeah. And so it is a very big opportunity for that original agent of record to have a conversation with them and just make sure, hey, it's totally fine if you are choosing a different broker or moving to another plan, but do you know what you're doing and why?
Right. And what does CMS do? They propose a rule, hey, now if you're Medicaid eligible, you can switch once a month. Right? So that's all that they can do.
Yeah.
All they can do is create or remove a law. They don't have anything else in their toolkit. Meanwhile, Medizues comes around, we're going to save the world. No, it's not going to happen. Like, we're part of the bigger picture, but we are going to have our impact, whether it be like a small dent, as Steve Jobs would say, a small dent in the universe, or we do like really help the system as a whole. I want to do my part, and that's all you can do. You take care, you make your bed, you do the best that you can do. And like when we launched Medizues, I didn't know if it was going to be a product market fit. Right? It worked for me. I showed it to I showed the prototype to a couple other agents. They loved it, but we didn't know that it was going to have the success that it's had. So I'm going to talk about how.
Talk to us about
from the time you were born to how.
No. But just talk to us about how you found your way into the insurance space and what you were up to and why you got the idea to start solving this problem.
Right. Okay. So I'm an only child. My father raised me. My mom, they're still together. And my father told me two things throughout my entire childhood, right? Two reoccurring themes. All intentions on me, only child, right? Son, no matter what you do, if you're going to have kids, get married first. Okay. Son, no matter what you do not do insurance. Right? Here we are.
Wow.
Interesting.
Right. So he was in PNC and he worked for GE Capital and he's doing a lot of like commercial.
I would hate my life if I did PNC too, by the way.
Fair. Fair enough.
A lot of PNC agents out there agreeing.
Zing.
So-
I don't know. Maybe I just offended some listeners. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's painful.
but it's like any father trying to give their son or daughter like the best advice that they can. And like, listen, if you're going like this in your career, then all of a sudden you didn't have the exponential. Like, it makes sense, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm in Las
So
Vegas.
you're a bad son. You didn't listen very well then.
Well, he smiles now.
Okay.
You know. So I'm in Las Vegas 2020, and I'm working. I was a manager of a club crawl. Right. I worked at Excess at the Wynn.
Yeah.
And then after that, because it wasn't that much fun, believe it or not, I moved to
I can
being the manager of a club crawl. And so we would take about 100, 150 drunk people each night on a parade from bar to bar, club to club. Kind of like a pub crawl that you do like in Europe, but
They have
with
them in
clubs.
Nashville, and they have
Yeah.
them kind of everywhere when you travel. Yeah.
Yeah, so in Vegas, they do it with clubs. So that's what I was doing. And 9 months in, I'm saying to myself, dude, I got to get my shit together. Like, this was post-college, you know, like more of a
You can
fun
only
job.
do that so many times. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm 22, 23, and I'm
Time
saying,
to grow up.
yeah, I got to make some real money. So I've been going to this networking event on a weekly basis that I found on Eventbrite. And it was really cool. And this woman, Julie, she says, hey, you should come to this meeting. I just switched insurance companies. And I found this really cool one. They're really changing things. I'm like, well, Julie, I'd rather watch paint dry. She said, no. There's this young guy named Andrew, and Andrew's bonus was $50,000. He'll tell you how he made it. I'm like, nah, I'm not doing anything. Okay, fine, I'll go. So Monday afternoon, it's a Family First Life meeting. Andrew Taylor, right, he's got this really nice office in Vegas. And he goes over the numbers and how he made like, I don't know, 6 figures that month plus a $50,000 bonus. And I'm looking at Julie and my jaw drops because I'm like, I thought he made $50,000 bonus for the year, not for the month.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's looking at, I call him the Tin Man, right? He's up there and he's not polished at all. And I'm like, dude, I could speak better than him. I could work harder than him. I could do that. Get out of my way. So that was on a Monday. I took my test on Friday. Right? I went home, booked it, Pearson View, took a test on Friday. This was February of 2020.
Yeah.
This is like the Wolf of Wall Street. We always say it's like, show me that.
Yeah, show me the bank
your
account.
paycheck, and I'll quit my job and work for you.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
I never really thought of it that way, but 100%.
It's true.
Yeah, hangs up the phone. Yeah, I
Yep.
got licensed. So
Jonah Hill and Leonardo DiCaprio were so
Yeah.
good in that movie. by
so
the way.
good, so good. Maybe they'll make a movie about. No, I'm just kidding.
Let's go.
Yeah. So I get my license, and then a couple weeks later, COVID shuts the whole city. I mean, shuts the whole world down.
So we were actually in Vegas 2 days before Vegas shut down. So
Okay.
we were there for a carrier conference.
No, we were doing recruiting events there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we were there.
So
So with some of our agent distribution.
synergies of the Vegas world.
Yeah.
And we were like, they'll never shut Vegas down. There's too much money.
Yeah, I know.
Right. A month later, I'm making a video on YouTube of me running down the strip. All the LEDs are off. It's like a ghost town. It feels so weird.
Creepy.
So anyway, I get my license. I lose my job, obviously. I got nothing else to do. Bird gets kicked out of the nest. He's got to fly. Ton of final expense leads, face off Facebook. Put them on my credit card and went to work. And that was the start of it. And so my whole thing was, one, like, I got to make ends meet. But two, I got to show it to my dad, right?
But I think that first year, though, you crushed it, though, right?
I did really well. Yeah. I was eventually a Hall of Fame producer with FFL, which is $400K and she paid production. But, that was from March till December of 2020. She paid $200K.
Yeah.
My first 9 months.
Which, hey, kudos. I mean, there's a lot of the agents listening to this podcast are like, okay, yep, respect. That's a lot of production.
Yeah. It was a lot. But, people get into the industry for a number of different reasons. For me, it was all kind of, one, I wanted to better my life, but two, I wanted to spite my father. Like I wanted to tell him to like shove it up your ass. Like I can totally do this.
Are you going to make sure he
And
listens to this podcast?
He's heard that before. I've shared this, but it's another thing. Like not to get too deep. It's like you have to tell your inner child that you're not going to be limited by your parents' beliefs, right? And you inherit these scripts, and it's like a way of me just chiseling out like this old archaic part of me and like killing it. It was me just working 6-7 days a week, door knocking, whatever I had to do. So that first month in March, I did $20K. And then I told my parents because I never told them that I got my insurance license. They had no idea because I knew, right? What do they tell me my entire life? Don't do drugs. I'm doing drugs. Don't do insurance. Well, I'm not going to tell you until I'm really successful at it.
Yeah.
And then you can, So I told him, and there's not really much that he could say. It felt really good. It felt so good. So people get in for different reasons. I got in for, kind of an egoic.
like so
thing.
you opened an insurance spite store.
Yeah.
Like Larry David
yeah.
on Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Like Mocha
Yeah.
Joe.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to the Curb fans if you get the reference.
Amen. So I'm doing really well with life insurance. I started to build up a team, and I was really good at sales, and I love sales. I love meeting with people, but managing agents and putting out fires arguably, I still don't have the skill set, but at that time, I totally didn't have the skill set. It was too overwhelming for me. So an extra, 5, 10K a month in overrides was nice, but it wasn't, in my words, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze at the time, right? So I gave everybody to my top agent. He was in it to win it. Put him at the top comp, and I said, hey, I'm going to leave you with everything. I'm going to go do Medicare, go put my head down for a year, pick it up, and I'll have some mailbox money, right? I'm just going to go lone wolf. And that's exactly what I did. So I wrote 600 plans my first 12 months doing Medicare, just all direct mail, face-to-face, kept my work ethic from final expense, put it in Medicare. I don't need a social, I don't need a round account.
So for a lot of you out there, agents, that's 600 MAPDs in 1 year.
Yeah.
So
For a brand new agent.
That's a phenomenal production. That's more than most agents write in their career, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's more than a lot of very established agents with large books of business. And,
Really?
Absolutely. A lot of agents out there who are very established are still only writing 100, 200 plans a year on average.
So that's pretty, so kudos to you, man. That's pretty phenomenal for your first year.
Thank you.
So you did that just with direct mail, and this was 2021 then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 2021, 2022.
Okay, fantastic.
And you were meeting with people face to face in the COVID days?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So lessons to learn.
Yeah, there's people out there that still wanted to meet and shake hands.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So you started obviously growing your book of business, writing Medicare plans, and that's where you probably saw your own personal struggles and problem with, again, to your point, the origin of trying to understand, is this policy active? Did it go into effect? Am I getting paid on it? What is going into renewal? What is dropping off? I mean, I think that this is a really common problem that, when we talk about trying to tell insurance agents to be business owners and actually run a business, this is one of the things they really struggle with, candidly.
Yeah. Because for me, I'm like, okay, if I throw 400 clients on the books, 400 times 25, I can do math. That's 10 grand a month.
Correct.
That's what I want to be doing. So I write 400, and I'm like, wait, this bucket's got a hole in it.
Yep.
You pull water in, there's some water coming out the bottom. I'm saying, shit, I didn't get into Medicare so I could just spin my wheels. Like, I want to work for a year or two, but I want to work more than that, So I'll bust my ass, but not forever. So I'm saying to myself, Jesus, I had 100 people leave my book of business out of that 600. So, I was able to keep if you do the math, it's like some 80%.
Yep.
Which is right on the money. Right?
It is about the average retention rate right now, if we were to throw it out there. And I would argue that pre-COVID, 2015, 2017, 2018, if you were like a field agent who was meeting with people face-to-face, you would retain like 90% of your book of business.
Oh, really?
Now, over the years, and I'm going to start to sound old like a boomer, since I've been in this since 2007. But over the years, as there's been more capital, larger entities, the Joe Namath ads, the COVID, everything creeping in.
Less enforcement of SEPs, more Hickens.
Correct. Right. Ever since they opened up those DSTs from COVID and the gates have just been open, I think field agents only retain about 80%. That's right in line with, the good ones, the bad ones, everybody you throw into a bucket, they're retaining about 80%.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, it's a pretty big drop off from 90% to 80%. It's
when you talk about LTV and like your future renewals, like we built a calculator on Medizues because most agents aren't forecasting their future renewals and they don't understand. Yeah, and like if I go to Mike and I'm like, hey, you can increase your persistency by 5% year over year, you're like, I can't get excited about that. I don't know what that means. We'll give a calculator and we could talk about it more, but like we'll show you your ROI and your LTV based off of your persistency.
Correct.
And only 3%. Like with all my demos, I do 3%. It's ridiculous. Like, you didn't buy any more leads, you didn't spend $1 more on marketing, and you made an extra like 70 grand over the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. So I think that's a good spot for us to hit a quick pause and kind of go, hey, we are going to drop a link for Medizues. For those of you who are listening, as we keep talking about the product and what it does and what it solves, if you do want the product, we will have a link. You can click on it. You can buy it. What is the normal monthly price of Medizues?
So everybody gets a 30-day free trial, no credit card asked. After that, it's $89 a month.
Okay, so $89 a month.
Cheap.
Incredibly cheap. If you all who are, I don't even know that it's...
Save 2 plans a year.
It's third grade math, but I mean, when you're sitting there looking at the numbers of what you're getting paid on all your clients and the renewals and everything else, I'm sure that's what you're talking about as far as an ROI calculator of saying, hey, this product is $89 a month, times that out over the year. Here's your expense. And here's exactly what you would need to retain or save, so to speak, in order for this to break even, right? Is it something like that?
Yeah, I mean, the way that I originally priced it out was I want Medizues to cost 3 enrollments a year, right? And that's what it does.
Yeah.
Right? If you're getting paid street, $300 a pop.
So if you only have
$1,000 a
3
year.
policies on the books, and this may not be for you yet,
Correct.
But-
And your mom and your dad. Yeah.
or yeah, I won't go into their
yeah,
more,
we'll go into actually the features of it. Let's continue the story because it's super interesting to me of how you kind of made this transition to it.
Yeah, and
tech.
I'm interested to hear about this beta version, this first version that you created. You know, if you can, I don't know about.
So you were losing policies, so you could have used some help with retention. So you were noticing that you're losing policies every month, right?
Yeah. Well, I wasn't even realizing that I was losing policies every month. Some of them weren't going into effect because I wrote them and then somebody else wrote them behind me. Stuff like that, or the enrollment didn't go through.
And you were doing all these face to face, all these
all face to face, and I was doing
you were still having that problem.
Yeah, and I was using the carrier portals. Nobody told me about Sunfire until 500 enrollments in. I'm like, oh, that would have helped. You know, that would have made my life a lot easier. So I was just sitting there on an iPad. So I have 100 people leave my book of business, and I'm like, why didn't anybody tell me? Why isn't there a software out there?
You would think that you would get flagged and notified because, you know, in the life world, like if you you get notified, right?
Or even Meds Up.
But
Correct.
in Medicare Advantage, you don't get notified.
You know what I used to do? I had a master spreadsheet, and and right until I stopped actively selling, I still did this. I had a master spreadsheet, and once a month, I would go through and I would look everybody up in the carrier portal and match up book of business, and then I would mark them on my spreadsheet if they were still active or not. And then if I lost them, I'd try to, Well, I wouldn't go back and contact them because they weren't on my books anymore, but I would try to, find people that were moving.
You'd send a carrier pigeon.
Yeah, exactly. I'd mail them out.
Send a
and be
letter.
Like, Martha, did you really mean to leave me?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it took a lot of time. I'd sit and watch TV or watch football and do that, for hours a month to try to like cross-reference just to see who was still active on my book, and let alone be able to have visibility and save them ahead of time.
Right. And you're probably like, why is anybody telling me? Because the data's there.
Right.
The data's there somewhere, and the carriers know it. Like on UHC, you can see future and active. On Humana, there's a freaking future term report. And I'm like, wow, this is sick. They're going to tell me who's leaving at the end of the month or the end of the year during AEP. Why won't they show me where the future plan is going? I kind of get it because they don't want to show like other carriers' plan. I get that. But I'm like, okay, well, there's probably a platform out there that'll show me the future plan plus make it cross-carrier, so it works with every carrier one spot. Couldn't find it, so I'm like,
Didn't exist.
I got to build it. Now, as far as budgeting goes, like I made some good money, single, no kids, and I lost $30,000 worth of renewals, right? 100, 300, right? 100 enrollments. So I'm saying, hey, listen, if I'm able to build a prototype for 10, 15 grand, like it'll be worth it because it'll help me in the long run. And I knew what the LTV looked like at that point. So
you're saying you were willing to invest 15 grand when we're trying to convince agents to invest $89 a month?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I have that same conversation up here too.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. $89 is a lot. Yeah. Try 15 grand.
Yep.
Yeah. And it wasn't.
I'm
not
saying
even
89 is a bargain compared to
Yeah. So the way that the prototype worked, okay, I don't condone this because I had to do it in the beginning. So every time that I meet with a beneficiary, I ask for their paper Medicare card, and I'd go see if they had a Medicare.gov account. If they didn't, I would make them one with them.
Great.
Right, and give them the username and password.
Great.
And that way I didn't have to look up what plan they have right now because they'd pull out 3 or 5 plastic cards. And also I wouldn't have to go through their medicine jar and see what meds they recently got filled because they have all that data on Medicare.gov.
Correct.
Blue button.
Blue button
like
is what they never did anything with, but yes.
Yeah. So if I was meeting with somebody, like I was meeting with Mike, and you had a plan right now, but you had signed up for a future plan next month, call it June, I would see that it show up there. So I'm like, okay, well, the data is visible somewhere. So the prototype that would later become Medizues was a Google Chrome extension. And it was programmed to work with Google Sheets. So in my Google Sheets is where I kept my CRM. I didn't have a Go High Level or something. But I had all my clients, had all their data, and I had their Medicare username and password in one column, password in another. So this Google Chrome extension was a scraper. Take the username, password, log into Medicare.gov, find that button that went to their current plan, scrape the page. If they had a future plan, if they would scrape their current plan, their future plan, put it back on the Google Sheet, and then log out, and then log in and do it again.
Dang, that's pretty clever. Even that, in my opinion, that's who built that scraper? Did you build it yourself, or did you have somebody?
I hired a developer. He's probably out of his basement. I don't know. So it was cool, like a prototype. It worked, and it was good for the job. But I saved 8 people the first day that we ran it. We ran it for the first time December 8th of 2022. Right?
Smart.
So, I wanted to get it done before December 7th,
right?
Yeah. But work is work and time.
So you wrote a lot of DST enrollments.
The special election period saves that you had to do.
Yeah. Well, some 5 stars in there too.
Yeah.
And you know the deal. So I saved 8, and then I showed it to my upline, Ethan, and Ethan saved like 12 people the next day. He's like, "Oh, damn, you're onto something." So that's when I had the idea, and that's when he basically told me, "Hey, like, you don't know this because you haven't been in the industry that long, but other Medicare producers, they all have issues with persistency. And this has become a widespread issue throughout CMS and Medicare. So if you create a product, there's going to be high demand." So that's what 2023 was all about. It's making it compliant, getting our API, putting into a platform, product, making it scalable, and then eventually offering it to other agents.
But to kind of clarify, and I think to add on to so that people understand, these days you had to go through a vetting process with CMS, right? And in order to kind of push and pull data and obviously access that, I imagine all of last year you went through a very rigorous vetting process and compliance, correct?
I know, yes. I know way more about compliance than I would say like most compliance officers, just because we had a full-on colonoscopy.
Yep.
We're still going through that.
That's literally the word we used to describe it this morning in the audit that we've gone through with CMS for the ED integrations.
Yeah.
And it takes anywhere from 3 to 6 months, usually to get that accomplished.
A technological colonoscopy. Meanwhile, every day you have to watch the news and see all these massive multi-billion-dollar entities being hacked and everybody's data breached repeatedly every day, and you're sitting here going,
Yeah. Well, I mean, while we were going through that, there was a subcontractor that was working with CMS that had a security breach, and they had to redo a bunch of MBIs. I don't know if you guys remember that.
That's happening right now.
And I'm like, please don't screw us.
That absolutely happened. And so the brokers don't really understand, like, how come all these people were affected and had to get new MBIs? And it's like...
So that's still pretty, I think you're selling yourself a little bit short. That's still pretty ambitious. How did you, not being a tech guy, knowing what we know about the industry, you had to go find developers, qualified developers. How did you
explain the problem, describe the solution.
How did you go through all that?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I made a bunch of mistakes.
Sometimes you just don't know what you don't know and how hard it'll be, and you just get through it and you just get going.
Yeah, and you just can't take a course for some things, right? Yeah. Courses are great, but they don't have a course for everything. Right. So, it was it was a lot of mistakes. There was 3. So I say it this way. If there are insurance gods out there, if they do exist, they wanted Medizues to exist because there was 3 bullets. I can't go into too much like IP, but there was 3 bullets that killed Medizues, and it survived all 3 by the grace of God, right? And if there is something out there, it wanted it to exist.
Good.
Because it should have died 3 times. The first one, which I can talk about, is that the initial developer that I hired and then eventually started to work on the enterprise version of Medizues was not HIPAA compliant or high-tech certified, had to kill it. I was like, oh my God, I spent 5 figures with this guy. And that was a lot to me. So then I had to go find and vet a new developer. So imagine like building this thing for 3 months and then having to transition it and give it to an entirely separate new development team of 3 people. Like that was a nightmare. I remember having my developer, my lawyer on the phone talking to each other. I'm like, I'm paying this guy and I'm just like bleeding from both ends.
You're like, I need to write some more Medicare policies.
I can relate if that makes you feel better.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that.
But, and I will say it might as well be a good drop in there too. If you're out there as an agency owner and you're building technology, just keep in mind, do your homework first before you get down the road, to your point about what you're trying to solve, and does it have to be SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3 compliant, high-tech compliant, HIPAA? You can't use Zaps. There's for a lot of years, you couldn't use Twilio Flex. I mean, you have to really vet out vendors and your stack, because with healthcare and healthcare records and PHI, there are a lot of great tools and features and products out there that are just you cannot leverage and use in our industry.
Yeah. And the whole time I knew that if we could get over these barriers to entry, it would actually be a good thing because, you know, it walls it off a little bit to some degree. And if we could get there fast and go to market, we'd be the first ones in the market, which we are.
Yep.
And you always have that first mover advantage. So, listen, I didn't expect to put in how much I did. It was everything that I owned. And when we launched, I had less than 15 grand in the bank, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And all that money that I made from renewal is just like 6 figures, like put it back into this thing.
I mean,
I believed
your dad
in it.
waiting there being like,
Yeah.
Tapping his foot.
So.
Yeah.
But hey, you've already re-rolled 3 times, right? You got into final expense, then you got into Medicare, and then you got in from being a Medicare agent to being a tech company.
Yeah.
You're already on your 3rd iteration.
Listen, timeshares are next, gentlemen. So
So that's cool. How did you find and connect with these developers? Were you just kind of out scouring the web and looking for people and interviewing, or
Fivering it up?
No, fine, not fine.
I'm messing with you.
Use Fiverr for a logo, maybe.
Yeah.
Just so you guys know, I never said this before. It's the first time anybody realizes I just made the Medizues logo on Canva.
Yep. We do that stuff too. You can do a lot on Canva.
Canva's great.
Yeah, it's
we love
great.
Canva.
It's awesome.
If they ever want to sponsor this episode, they can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I found my developers via Upwork.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Upwork.
Yeah. So good amount of vetting. They have worked with the government before, and they were like way more expensive. But I knew that if there was any way that we were going to get this pushed through, it would have to be with somebody that high level. So world-class developers, had to hire third-party consultants, and learned a lot. You know, spent 5 times more money than I had budgeted originally, and you know, we're completely bootstrapped.
So you're saying that to develop tech, you found out the hard way that it costs more than you originally thought, and more than you budgeted, and it took longer and cost more. That should be
heard that?
Yeah,
I've heard that before. I felt that before. There's so many cautionary tales that could be said.
That's the law of the tech development universe.
Yeah. Well, it's one thing to throw up a website. Like I built the Medizues website because I built websites before, which is great. But building a website, I can build that in a couple of days. Not a big deal. But I thought that building software would be the same thing. No.
Yeah. So what kind of is your idea patented or registered? What kind of protections do you have for your tech?
We're patent pending.
Good.
Yep.
So no one else.
I mean, listen. To be fair, it hasn't been approved by the patent office. But if it does go through, then yeah. I mean,
you've been first use in market for a long time, and your use case is there. Yeah. So perfect. So how did you? So you got the software, and then what? How did you go to market with it?
Yeah, great question. So I was doing a bit of research and some homework before we launched. We launched October 1st. So I wanted to launch before AEP, but I didn't realize how busy people were before AEP.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like before AEP for me, I wasn't selling because if I'm going to sell anything before AEP, I'm going to make like $75.
Yeah.
I don't care. So I'm just like studying the plans. I have some free time at the beginning of October. But everybody else was like super busy. Anyway, I'm lukewarm in the industry, like well known, because I did really well at the FML I was with. I would speak at conventions, and people knew who I was, and I had a YouTube channel. So the first day, I was just calling people, just calling all my colleagues, and they're like, holy shit. And I remember, it was like probably the 10th call I made, it was to Matt Wilson out of Chattanooga, and he had given me leads one time. And I'm like, Matt, I just launched this thing called Medizues. This is what it does. And he's like, are you effing kidding me? I'm like, no. He's like, dude, I just sold my book of business last month. I would not have sold it if I knew about this.
Yeah.
I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, let me get the guy that bought it on the phone. 3-way call this guy in.
Mm-hmm.
His name's Alan. I'm pretty sure he's a customer now. Mm-hmm. But immediately it was positive feedback. The thing was, though, during the entire year while I was building it, I couldn't tell anybody about it.
Yeah.
Right? I would go to these marketing courses like, oh, you have to tell everybody about your launch, about your book. Like, they have to know it's coming. And I'm like, no, like, nobody can know that we're building this because, you know, if you ask somebody in 1900, what do you want? They're going to be like, I want a faster horse.
Yeah.
Right.
They're not going to think of a car.
Yeah.
You know? So I was like, okay, this is top secret. This is some high-tech shit. Like, I can't tell anybody. And it was a good thing, too, because when we launched, you know, we had our website down, we had our branding down, and people really gravitated towards it. So, you know, it took hold with people like you, organizations, agencies that would just reach out. And, I mean, we haven't done any paid ad spend, and we're pretty much inbound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I told you, but we've been early adopters of a lot of the tech stacks in the industry, or proliferated some of the other stuff that a lot of people use. And I think the same thing with you and Medizues, as I became aware of it. I can't remember if I became aware of it or Brian did. And then we quickly set up and started rolling it out to some of our agents and using it enterprise-wise. But that's one of the things that we've always prided ourselves on, is being first to market and kind of early adopters on a lot of these things. So I'm glad that we were able to kind of find you early on.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And when they say about marketing, there's so much, it's so easy to do marketing now. Like, everybody has a laptop, everybody can make YouTube videos and stuff.
Right.
But the whole thing that people, I don't want to say they forget, but it's not emphasized that much. If you have a really good product, it makes marketing easy.
Yep.
You know, it just makes it that much easier.
Yep.
So, you know, it's one thing to tell people about your stuff. That's what marketing is. It's another thing to have a really good product. And to anybody out there that's thinking about developing a product, like, make sure it's really good first, and then worry about the marketing, not the other way around. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think at this point, I want to describe the product to people listening, so they actually have a very good contextual understanding as to, we're talking about how amazing it is, because we're all speaking from a point of reference to where we use it.
Yep.
So for somebody that's listening, so here's the benefit. We actually have a lot of Marks accounts, you know, us. So our organization, we have carriers that sponsor Marks, you know, our agents, a lot of them have Marks access. Our staff does. So we have the ability to do like MBI lookups and access records, and
we can see if somebody's pending move.
Correct, but you have to look it up one by one. So meaning that if I had a file, let's just say an agent has a book of business of 400 clients, you can actually go into Marks. You don't have to go to the carrier website. And let's be honest, it's dicey. Some carriers are great and give you a lot of visibility. Other carriers candidly suck, and you have no visibility about your commission statement or book of business or anything else. Mm-hmm. So the nice thing is you can circumvent all the carriers, go right to Marks, and look up an individual record and see, hey, that HICN or PBP that I've enrolled somebody on, they're still good. They're solid. Next month, I don't have to worry about them leaving. They're going to be in my book of business. But that's a one-to-one record lookup, and it takes a lot of time. Mm-hmm. So what Medizues does is, obviously you can do those bulk requests. So let's just say an organization like ours, you have hundreds of thousands of policies even, or, you know, large blocks of business. You can do bulk requests on those. And same with if I'm an agent and I have 200, 300, 1,800 clients in my book of business, I can do a whole bulk ping essentially against the Mark system, really, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to give me statuses. And I think those there's three statuses we see a lot, right? What are those statuses that people would see?
So you'll see the current contract on file, the current plan name, and the current enrollment date.
Okay.
So you know exactly what they have in place and how long they've had it.
Yep.
And then if it's ending, it'll show the end zone date. So like just say the last day of May, like May 31st. And then it'll show the future contract number, future plan name, and future enrollment date.
Perfect, which is so amazing. So like when we're talking about it in a very practical sense, if I'm a broker, and again, I'm uploading a file, my whole book of business, I'm seeing exactly, okay, these 462 clients, they're good, they're locked in. Yep, that matches my record. That's the plan that I put them on. They're good. These other ones are pending, or that they're going to terminate at the end of the month. And maybe you were the broker who actually performed that, and you know, yep, these 10 or 15 enrollments, I did a plan change for my clients.
Yeah.
Here's ones that I didn't. Oh no, what's going on with that book? At that moment in time, you're the agent of record still right?
Compliant.
So it's compliant for you as the broker to reach out to your current client and say, hey, I noticed that this is, you know, pending. Perfectly fine if you had a change of heart, or you want a new broker, or want this other plan, perfectly great. But if not, are you aware that this is happening, and did you elect that plan? The power in that is just incredible for so many brokers with retention and managing their book of business.
Yeah, and did you know, Mr. Jones, that your doctor isn't in network with this new plan?
Right.
Yeah.
Or this drug isn't in the formulary. Or you might, did they tell you that you're going to get this Part B reduction?
Did you know that I wasn't just a captive agent with Humana or whatever, and that I offer everybody,
right,
and that I can put you on that plan as well, and I can still be your agent of record? Oh, I didn't know that you could do that. When I bought that United Healthcare plan, I thought you were just the United Healthcare guy.
Yeah.
Nope, not the case.
Well, the other thing that you can do, versus looking them all up manually, the other benefit is you can do it multiple times a month and have the opportunity to get ahead of stuff and stay up on top of it versus doing it once a month, because
don't do it on the 29th or the 30th.
Yeah, because you wait till the end of the month and you find out that, you've got 20 people moving that you need to reach out to. you might be too bad, so sad. You're not going to be able to get a hold of all those people to have the opportunity to save them, you know? So,
and I would actually speak to organizations out there. Like I said, we really, we're fans of yours. We like that you've taken the steps, you've taken the risk, you've put out the product. We appreciate that. So like as a testimonial, I mean, we use it in our retention, department, obviously. So we use it for our call center retention, our own in-house book of business, and for our retention reps.
My former policies, Dan's former policies.
Brian's
Call center, when we have agents who, churn out of our call center, they worked here for 3 months and then they left and got another job. They have all those orphan policies. I mean, we're taking all those policies, we're pinging it every month, and we're trying to identify what policies are at risk and who's going to be dropping off, and we're making sure to service those members and call them and educate them, and it's been a phenomenal tool. So we're actual real users of the product, and we have that point of reference, and we've seen the value, and we're really trying to put out that awareness and to the industry, so to speak.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It does a couple other really cool things as well. So like during AEP, it'll show you the last app that's winning.
Yep.
It's really important. I don't know if you guys call it placement, just making sure you write 1,000 apps during AEP and only 800 of them go into effect, right? What did happen to those 200? Well, somebody came in behind you, last app to win, or something happened with the enrollment that you submitted. But you can see the last app that's winning, which is sick.
We always advise agents on December 1st or around there, you should start looking at all of your applications you've written.
Yeah.
And we will take that final week that ends up being a little bit slower and make sure that you're not already, sand through the hands. The business that you're already losing that you just wrote a month ago.
Yep.
So,
and it designates that. It shows like last app winning during AEP.
Yeah.
There's a report for that.
Yep.
Awesome.
It'll show crosswalks too. So if not everybody necessarily knows what crosswalks are, but essentially you're going from Humana Gold Plus to Humana Gold Plus 2,
right.
for example.
When it's a like-to-like, they can do that.
Yeah. So if they have to do a service area reduction or a service area expansion, they have to change the last 3 PBP of the contract, so the last 3 digits. And sometimes when they change the last 3, they'll also change the name. They won't. So you're still the AOR, still same hierarchy, but...
So to explain that to brokers who don't know maybe and they're just hearing that part, it's CMS will let a crosswalk happen when a plan is like to like. Yeah. So if you have like a PPO plan that is exiting, but there's a new PPO plan coming in by that same carrier, a lot of times they'll let that business just naturally migrate over to the new plan. Yeah. But if it's like a DSNP plan and an HMO, those are not like plans, and they will have to actually sunset it. That's a SAR, and somebody will have to rewrite that business. Right. But to your point, it is good because I think, and I foresee in this coming year too, with Heidi's, Fighties, more kind of delineation of different products, we are going to see a lot. Like I talked to a carrier, I don't know that I want it out yet because it's that time of year where we're not showing first looks quite yet, but they've already said, hey, we're going from 2 plans that are DSNP from, a partial dual and a full dual. We're going to 7 dual plans in this same marketplace. And so for things like that, I'm sure there's conversations with CMS about which of those eligibility levels, if they're Quimby or Slimby or whatever that may be, which is going to be an appropriate crosswalk plan for them to move that membership to. So there's going to be a lot of that. I think it's valuable. I'm thinking ahead of not only just saving money and using it for retention, but also if I'm a broker and I'm in one of those marketplaces, which of my members are kind of, okay, I'm good, I'm safe, these ones are automatically going to happen. And I have visibility on that, and I can then kind of parse up my book of business and give attention to the ones that I really need to focus on doing a plan change.
Yeah. I mean, the number one, not that you guys aren't an amazing testimonial, but the number one result that we've had is this woman who saved 50 clients her first month. Like that's our top, like numbers-wise, testimonial. So she had 50 members, January of 2024, lose Medicaid. Their DSNP canceled in December. She had no idea. 57 of them, and then she saved 50 of them in January, the first time she ran Medizues, before even plugging in her credit card, right, during her 30-day free trial. Yeah. So like, ROI, baby, like it works,
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm sure she was happy to put on for an annual payment and sign up and keep it, I'm sure.
Yeah, she paid the next 10 years up front.
Yeah, exactly. She already got a return on it right there.
And I think from a perspective, too, of there's sometimes a little bit of resistance to use new products and technology from brokers too, because let's be honest, there's so much in our industry with all the different carriers and products, certifications, using proprietary enrollment tools and portals from carriers that it can feel overwhelming. But I think from a user, like a UI and ease of use, it's a very easy tool. The experience. So if you're listening to the podcast and you're like, oh, that sounds like a really cool tech tool. I'm old school. That sounds like it's too tough for me. I think for just about the lowest common denominator of agent out there, you can use it.
If you could use a spreadsheet, you could use Medizues.
Exactly. It's that user friendly.
Yeah.
You know?
And if you want to soup it a little bit, we have direct integrations with Go High Level and Salesforce and Zoho and all that stuff.
Yep. So let's talk more about that. I mean, hey,
those,
look, there's agencies out there, and just so you know, there's an enterprise version too, right? Yep. So I mean, we're talking about the individual one that's $89 a month. The enterprise one, I forget the pricing on it, but
yeah,
it's your moment. So you might as well tell how much is the pricing on the enterprise?
Enterprise starts at $225
a month.
Yeah.
Per seat,
goes up from there. Yeah.
And that's gives you more access to query more data in one data pool, right?
Yeah.
And what's the limit on the polls there?
We can do, I mean, from a technical component, we could do $250,000 at a time.
On a call, like a data call?
Yeah. Which is like a lot, way more than most people need.
Uh-huh.
But on the normal $89 a month, you can fetch 2,000 clients per day.
Okay.
Which, you know, if you have one book of business, that's like more than enough for 99% of brokers.
Yeah. Yep. Even if you're an agency out there and you have 10,000 members, you can have a normal one. You can fetch a couple thousand and do it over a couple of days, and you're still perfectly fine. So, I mean, we're talking high volume, and the fact that you integrate, which for those more sophisticated people who are running, you know, their own softwares and their own CRM and everything else, just to know that the API is open like that and you can integrate is a huge, because for a lot of products out there, that's either closed API or the favorite part is, we have API, but you have to pay extra for it. Yeah. And there has to be what do you call it? An implementation for it and all that, which is the very wonderful thing about all the tech vendors out there is it's like, we have this cool thing. If you pay us only $5,000 or $10,000, we can do an integration into your ecosystem. Yeah. You know,
I might know a couple entities that do that. You know, that didn't even cross my mind. I'm just like, all these people are requesting integration into their CRM. We got to get on this thing, dudes. So, you know, we released our webhooks API, and it didn't even cross my mind to charge extra for it. You know, I just want people to use it. Mm-hmm. We're going to do well in the long term as long as we have widespread adoption.
Correct.
Exactly.
Yeah. Then it's all these tech SaaS companies that need to get a return for their investors that are like, we need to charge for this iteration. We need to charge for this implementation. And that's when they really need to start tweaking those rev models, you know?
Yeah.
So what else should people know about Medizues? What are some of the things that people should know, or the lesser known things that it can do, or maybe something that you can talk about that's on the horizon?
Yeah. I mean, right off the bat, we show deceased in real time, which is really nice. We show LIS and Medicaid indicator. We thought about doing Medicaid actual level, like SLMB or QMB, but we would need the client social for that, and the juice isn't worth the squeeze at this point to maintain that data. As far as new features...
Are you talking like BEQ files and stuff like that?
No, I mean like doing a Medicaid lookup. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You need the social for that.
Oh. The Change Health is still...
Yeah, darn it. They had a system that was kind of okay, and then it got destroyed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that's another thing about the industry is like we don't know how dinosaur-like it is until something breaks, and then like who the hell thought about putting all of our eggs in one basket? We need some redundancy. Why is it all in one clearinghouse? Mm-hmm. Anyway, I mean, I just hope that when they build it, they build like 3 or 4, just call it Change Healthcares, so that if one of them breaks, like the whole system.
They can bring that one offline, and they have completely different protocols. And that's been the problem too with the not to go talk about Change Health again. The problem, people are asking, why is it taking so long? Well, they can't fire it back up because I'm sure they embedded malware and everything else inside of there. So even if they turn it back on, they can just get right back in.
Talk about an activation fee, right? That's a good ransomware dollar amount. Holy shit. So one thing that we are, just to get back to it, one thing that we are going to be implementing that'll come out at the end of June is 1-by-1 Medicare eligibility checks. It'll show you the plan history. So the past 10 plans that the client has had, which is really nice because if you're on the phone,
the past 10 plans?
Up to the past 10.
Mark's currently shows what, 4? Do you know?
No, it shows 10.
It does show 10?
Yes.
Up to 10. I thought it only showed 4.
Now, first of all,
man, if you've changed plans 10 times,
just hang up the phone.
If they've already changed 10 times, dude, you're not even going to make it past the rapid disenrollment. You might as well just say, "Have a blessed day."
And that's the value add is you get to know that up front without having to. You can see that that data is housed in Medicare.gov, and then you go,
Yeah.
Right.
So if you're on the phone with somebody and you know that they changed plans 3 times,
Yeah, you look them up in Marks and you're like, oh man, you're a switcher.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
No thanks.
Yeah. So for people like you, I mean, you guys have Marks. That's great. Not every agent has Marks, so this will give them that insight to that.
Absolutely. And not only that, let's just be honest too. I like telling agents control the controllables. You know, you're at the mercy of a lot of different things in our industry and even these different carriers that you perform services for, and talking about their technology. It's hit or miss. Some of the carriers do a phenomenal job and give you great resources. It's easy to access. Others do not. And so why are you going to sit around as a broker and wait for somebody to hopefully cross your fingers and solve your problem? I think this is more proactive, where somebody can say, hey, well, what happens if I've been using Humana for my lookups or United Healthcare and then their system's down and I can't? I mean, if I'm paying for that and I can do my own lookups and I have my own tool that I'm paying $89 a month for, and I can just log in and do an eligibility lookup myself. Yeah. I mean, that's worth its weight in gold, right?
Yeah.
To that point, why, maybe you know this, why doesn't Marks let you do batch file queries like you? Like why, what's the limitation there? If I can plug in a single MBI or required information and pull that, and that's a source of truth, why don't they do batch files like Medizues?
I think it just has to go, they just really need to vet who's going to be able to do that, because I guess you could, like, if the wrong actor was able to do that, they probably could game the system in a way, kind of like what's going on with ACA.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is with Medicare is that the compliance and red tape is much more mature than it is in ACA, so I think they would have less of an
That's
issue.
an understatement.
Yeah, they'd have less of an issue, but I think it's just a security thing, where, like, they will give that to special entities. You just have to go through, like, a massive vetting process first.
Yep. So to that point with ACA, because I'm sure you get asked that all the time,
yeah,
is Medizues, or is there going to be an ACA Zeus or a marketplace Zeus one day?
So the answer is probably not, because we're working on some really cool stuff that is not as risky as ACA. We could develop, call it ACA Zeus, but all it would take would be Health Sherpa implementing one extra feature, and then the need to have ACA Zeus just goes out the window because the problem's solved.
Right.
So, you know, I've spec'd it out, and I've thought about developing a Kickstarter where, like, agents can pay up front, and then we don't have to front the money. We develop it, and it's created. But, you know, there's only so many things you can do. So many dragons.
The risk reward is not there.
So many dragons.
There's lots of things on the roadmap.
Yeah, and to everybody out there, like, if you have an idea or a feature you want to see with Medizues, admin@medizues.com, email us, tell us about it. I mean, on all of our drip campaigns, we're like, hey, have you used all the features? Hey, is there anything you want to add? We've had users say, you should add this. Hey, you should add the link to the summary benefits. Okay, we'll do that. We implemented a ton of stuff that agents have asked for. So as far as what's on the roadmap, we can't say everything, but we're actively listening to user feedback.
Okay. Yeah, very good. And I think that we'll sync up and talk offline. You know, like I said, I think we always have our couple of pet projects and, you know, visions of products and things we want to build. And the same thing, it's always a question mark of, you know, we haven't had a monetization model for some of the things that we're building.
Right.
And so with that, it's kind of going, well, what does the risk reward look like on some of these products and features?
Yeah. Like, okay, I could talk about this. We were going to build Quote Zeus. Okay. So everything's going to end in Zeus, just so you know. It's good branding, right? So with Quote Zeus was going to be searching for Medicare plans and shopping using AI. So instead of having to browse manually, you just type in best dental in this zip code, and it'll pull up all the MAPDs. And it'll be like, it'll copy paste your drugs. Boom. You just paste them in there, and it, like, does all the mapping. It's crazy. It would be really cool to have that. But as far as monetizing it, the amount of money that we would have to charge to justify our development costs and ongoing costs would be way more than it's be way more than $89 a month. Right. And the fact that, like, there's already, like, Sunfire and Connecture, Medicare.gov, like, that already exist. So just, is the juice worth the squeeze? In that case, no. If I had, like, 7 figures laying around, I just wanted to create some cool tech products, hell yeah, I would do it. Like, it's just cool to do. As far as feasibility and, like, monetization from a SaaS product standpoint, like, it just doesn't make any sense. Yep. Yeah. Just to give you an idea.
Well, perfect. Well, before we wrap, what else? Anything else that somebody should know about Medizues, and for you personally, is this kind of your future? Do you have other things in the hopper, or are you committed to Medizues for the time being?
No, Medizues, I'm here to stay. Medizues is here to stay. I'm here to stay with Medizues, and I think I found my thing. I was really good at insurance, but nobody ever, nobody was like ever told me how amazing it was to have. Like, I haven't never got a testimony about a Med Advantage plan like I've gotten with Medizues. We're able to impact so many brokers on such a deep level. It's been fantastic. So I'm happy with what we've developed so far and where it's going. We do have some other stuff in the hopper, but I'll still obviously be involved with Medizues.
Yeah. I think, to that point, it's a product that solves a need. And ultimately, I liked your analogy that CMS doesn't always have the tools in the tool belt to solve some of these issues. And so we have to rely on the private marketplace to come up with some of these solutions. And I do think that everybody would acknowledge the rampant plan changing is not good for anybody. Nobody likes it. Carriers don't like it. Brokers don't like it. It's not good for the beneficiary. Ultimately, stability and consistency in managing, actually deploying coordinated care and knowing the history of these beneficiaries is what this game is all about. And I think we're going through a massive correction in this industry right now that's leading to that exact point. So I think your timing for this product couldn't be better. And again, if you're a broker, I'd say you should have at least, if you have over 50 clients on the books, you should have a tool like this because it'll save you time.
Yeah, we built an ROI calculator because some agents were like, hey, do I need this yet? And you said 50 justifiable.
That's what I came up with.
No, the way that the math works out is it really doesn't make sense until you have 100 clients.
Mm-hmm.
We would love to earn your business, you pay us, of course. But at the end of the day, I would say if you're a new agent, do not get Medizues because you need something to retain to make it worth retaining. Mm-hmm. I didn't have a CRM until I had 450 clients on the books. Yeah. That would have just been a big distraction. Like, no disrespect to all the CRMs in there.
Get a
and
spreadsheet.
It could be good. Yeah. It's like I was printing out my leads paper and not knocking on people's doors, but like meeting them in person.
Let's be honest. Some of the CRMs out there are just a SQL database with a skin. So
yeah, it's all good. But what I mean is, like, with Medizues, don't get distracted, right? You have all these tools and bells and whistles and stuff. Just go out and sell some goddamn policies, right?
Yep.
Build a book of business. Then we could talk about Medizues.
Yeah, there's probably a lot. I like how you say that. Go sell some policies first and then worry about it. There's a lot of agents. They'll do anything
except for sell.
Yeah, they'd like to spend way more time running a daily Medizues link to check on their 27 policies. And I'm like, my friend,
revenue generating activities.
Yeah, maybe you should go spend that exact same amount of time and effort on acquiring new business before you decide to.
Or you've been on my same training for 4 times. You don't need this training anymore. I love you, but you should be out in the streets trying to make some money.
Yeah,
exactly.
As our dad said, you're raised.
Yeah.
You're raised. Go out and do.
And we, in addition to the ROI calculator, we have an LTV calculator on Medizues. Again, you don't need to log in. You don't need an account. We don't want an email. Just hop on there. You hit the LTV calculators, and you can see if you put your head down for 1, 2, 3, 4 years, you can see what your income for that year is going to look like, plus your renewals the years after that.
Yep.
And that's the calculator. That's the graphic that I wanted. It would have been great for me when I first got started because I made a spreadsheet and did some calculations. I'm like, I'm going to scrap this. So if I write 400 people, 400 times 25 is 10 grand a month. That's what I want, right? But the LTV calculator will show you as well, not to cut you off, is like you can only increase your persistency by 3%, 5%. I mean, we have people that boost it by like 10 with call centers. It goes from not so great to like not as bad.
We're having great success with it right now. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It'll get boosted like 5, 10%. And then like that is where the real money's at. Like acquisition is great. You need to have your sales. You have to have your pipeline down. But not everybody gets into Medicare so they can work their ass off for 5, 10 years.
I think the saying is money saved is money earned.
Exactly.
Right?
It is. And even just to add to that, so again, even if you're listening, how many agents do we know that built their own spreadsheet that tried to calculate out like LTV and payments, and it's let's just say their math is incorrect, or they're doing napkin math, and they're trying to go, I sold 52 plans, so I'm expecting this money. So I would encourage you to go to the site and actually use the tool that you've already built, because we know that it's accurate, we know that it's correct, and you don't even have to pay for it. Just go use the site and bookmark it on your browser and use it.
Right.
I think that's a great value for free for any of those brokers out there listening too.
So Evan, how do people, let's give the official pitch. How do people go to sign up for the free trial? How do they get set up, and do we have a code? Well, we'll put it in our link below here on YouTube. And
yeah, we invested a lot of money making it very difficult for you to sign up for Medizues. So It's no, it's not a maze or a labyrinth. You just go to Medizues.com and you hit the start trial button.
And Zeus, as I joked at the start, is ZUES.com.
Yeah,
right?
Medizues.
You have to spell it incorrectly to get there.
Yes. Yeah. So I mean, the story on that, just like everybody's asking, is I was in the car.
You were sober, right?
I was on the way to an appointment, you know, and I'm like, I gotta grab this name before somebody else does. Not that anybody was gonna misspell a name, you know, in the meantime. But I thought that I was spelling it right, you know. I was in my Tesla, I had an auto drive on. I'm like, Medizues.com. I don't know how to spell Zeus. Shit. So I didn't know that I misspelled it until I got the C Corp docs back, and I'm like, somebody said, I'm like, what do you mean? Oh shit, did I really do that? And I kept it.
There you go.
It works.
There you go.
It works. So easy to sign up. To kind of, I guess I would say to wrap up and finalize, I would just say we forgot to also say, hey, like, subscribe,
Do that.
comment,
Agent Boost is dope.
do all the things.
Do the things.
You know, we have plenty of internet trolls that, you know, take offense to these episodes every week, and a lot of people who really like them. But feel free to like,
I don't
comment,
think we have
share.
as many trolls. I'd like some more trolls, to be honest. Let us know either way. The comments, good and bad, help the algorithm. So,
That's true. That is true.
Yep.
That is true.
Okay, appreciate your time, Evan. You're a stud. Thanks for coming out.
Thanks for having me.
See you guys.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Agent Boost.